It's been troubling me a bit, the conversation with To Be Serious. Not the conversation with To Be Serious and Professor Anton, but the prelude to the conversation. Like, To Be Serious has a lot of good points, wondering what is Anton talking about, and then Anton cannot seem to actually answer the questions directly as to what he's talking about. More or less, he's quoting Sartre and saying, well, if you read Sartre, you'll find out what I'm talking to when I say these things, when I say these particular things, right? And it got me thinking. It got me thinking about prepositions, prepositional logic, and then it got me thinking more particularly about types of prepositions and types of prepositions that have to do with parentheticals. Now, parenthetical are these things. They're C's that are forward or backwards that encapsulate and exclude things, such as in sets, right? Now, the set that contains all sets, that's, of course, a non-possibility. But it is, and so it would seem to be the never-ending drive of Professor Anton, that which is excruciating to his very soul, the attempt to find the parenthetical that includes all things, including itself, the set that includes all things. This is the communitarian's problem. This was brought up at the very early stages of my criticism of Professor Anton. Now, I'm more than happy to have a dialogue with Professor Anton. I'm not certain when the best time would be to have that dialogue, but what I'm suggesting, though, is that there are prepositions and prepositional phrases and prepositional logic that's being utilized in which to contain the parenthetical, to always speak of the withness, that we are with that which is clear across the solar system, clear across the galaxy, clear across the universe. We are with that item, that individual, that you're never without, you're always with, you're always contained within a parenthetical. Right? And this leads me to the notion of in and inwardness and out and outwardness, exclusion, decontextualization and atomization, that which is considered absent and excluded, right? That which is to not be named as part of a group or part of a whole or part of a sum, but that which is on the exteriority of it. So basically what I want, the safeguard this time, because I do a lot of safeguards with Anton, is to watch when he's using parenthetical prepositions such as in, inward, out, outward, exclusion, inclusion. And a good contrast to this might be the word via. This goes via that. When we speak of via, you're speaking of something that swishes through, something that comes amongst, not something that's parenthetically included within, right? Now, this is the communitarian's problem. This is what I consider, this is the problem with phenomenology in general. And I'm a little bit upset that other people aren't finding this to be problematic. They find Anton to be problematic, but they don't find why he's problematic. Now, I think that it has to do with a select few bits of prepositional logic that he's using parenthetically, whereas the exclusion, he'll decontextualize or atomize a certain few statements, but only in a mode in order to include them in the next statement. A universe that has to lose itself to find itself. And I was thinking about space and time, like, how about a universe that loses its time to find its space? Or a universe that finds its space to lose its time? In these cases, I could see the understanding of it. In other cases, I don't get it. Like, and if I don't get it, and To Be Serious doesn't get it, and Anton can't explain it, and all he can do is quote back to somebody else, right? Like, hey, don't ask me to tell you what I mean by that. I'm just here to state it, right? I'm just here to make certain I drop it into the future, right? Because he's got such a notion of his importance onto the future. There's something a little bit pathetic about it, and yet there's at the same time there's something that's self-aggrandizing about it, which is neato. That's really neato. Anyway, I don't know what else I want to say about this other than watch the notion like to and with. Prepositional logics, right? To talk about to and with as opposed to in and inward and included as opposed to excluded, absent, away from, abounding about, right? Then you get with, abounding about, via. I love via because via is not only not English, it swishes through twos. It swishes through betweens. It is via something. It is via the parenthetical. But what's the opposite of a via then? The non-via. The non-via that must be discussed, right? And what is this? What is this relative to our facelessness? I see my nose every day. I see my eyelashes every day. I see my eyelashes right now. I see the tip of my nose right now. I see my cheeks right now. I see much of my face. I see much of my face that I see in the video in front of me. This absenting of a face is an archaic notion that's being put forth by Anton as something that we're supposed to, in some regard, ode to. Like in his world, this is something magical. This is something that, well, we're in a first-person shooter game. In a first-person shooter game, we also see in the corner a dot with ourselves relative to the universe or a portion of whatever the game's universe is. We also see the Cartesian coordinates. So we're not absent the Cartesian coordinates, we're including the Cartesian coordinates, and we're excluding our face. We're excluding our face, but not by necessity. The game makers could easily put in a nose or easily put in eyelashes. It's almost as if Anton is fooled by the game maker. He's fooled by the game maker or the programmers of games that don't put the little knob for the nose that I see right here, all the way to right here. I see all of this. I see all of my eyelashes, right? And so the whole point is this. I'm not trying to strip away what Anton is trying to do with communalism. I don't believe he sees what he's doing as a phenomenologist as something that hasn't already been stripped away by language philosophy. The mere fact that Wittgenstein brought up, release the fly from the fly bottle. Our job is to release the fly from the fly bottle. And I sat there and I thought, from as a preposition, from the fly bottle. That there's as soon as the fly is released from the fly bottle, it is also released from the prepositional logic that houses it within the fly bottle. This becomes very, very pertinent when one wants to say, let go of the prepositions that bound us within language. As soon as one can let go of the prepositions, then one can also let go of the parentheticals. One can see the paradoxes found within mathematics and separate themselves from those paradoxes within mathematics. This might take mathematics training, or this may take some sort of understanding of parentheticals in order to get an idea of what it means to release oneself from these parentheticals. And my focus on this is to say there's a particular segment of prepositions that focus particularly on internality and externality that one should watch when one's speaking about things. It's kind of like this, kind of like on your keyboard, you can see the parentheticals, but you can also see the straight lines, right? There's straight lines that are housed one on side of the other, right? Now, these are not parenthetically bent. There's not an internality. There's not a center locution and an exclusion to these, except for where one finds them laid out within the grammatical syntax. I don't see why nobody else finds this to be a problem. I find this to be a great problem, like a huge problem. The notion that we can't maintain a Cartesian coordinate of our own minds relative to our universe while accepting the mirror, while accepting the reflection as part and parcel, that means that the mirror itself is included within the parenthetical. It's to say, to include as a part of the set, a notion of sets is included within the set, but just not the set that's including the notion of sets. Right? Could it be spelled out any easier than that? I don't know. Anyway, there's just some thoughts. I just wish some people would talk a little bit more technically about language or about grammar. And some people, I guess I expected them to. I don't know what to say about it exactly. There seems as if there's a certain naivety that's being just pulled over the eyes of what Gary might say are millions and millions of people, the trillions and billions of people on the planet, and why is nobody talking about these things, which I think in and of itself is another absurdity. Anyway, I got a clown to paint. God. Sheesh. Really? Another clown? Yep. I got another clown to paint. Looks like it's going to go on for a little while longer, maybe a long time longer, maybe the length of somebody else's career. I have no idea. We'll find out. Anyway, here's from the teleposts out in Niagara, beaming in to the outsources, talking about the exclusionary and inclusionary notions of prepositional logic and the use of prepositions within communal language, and then here are the exclusions, the which, the withs, the vias, the alongsides, the tos, the froms, the therewithouts, the therewithouts, the therewithouts, used within language, used within grammar, used within technical grammar. I don't know. Yeah, here. Let me pontificate for just another moment. I'm not certain why the phenomenologist butted up against the possibility of language does not see the entire collapse of the phenomenology, the entire collapse relative to language possibility. Language has more possibilities than phenomenology. Phenomenology is within a certain parenthetical, and it's grabbing and only coercing other internalized parentheticals to gravitate towards it, to prove itself, instead of seeing and bending outward against the universe. I don't get it. I don't get why there is such a gravity. I think it has just something to do with fame and presence and cockiness and confidence and authorial regurgitation. Authorial regurgitation. Apparently I have some books to read. and I've got to figure out what is regurgitated and what's plagiarized and what's considered authentic to an individual and see whether or not there's any grounds to speak of. Anyway, thank you.